This is something I've been wanting to talk about for a bit. So those who don't watch all my videos, because I've said this on the channel multiple times, but I'll go over it again just to be thorough. Remember I said, what are the favorite debate tactics on the left and the right? The right is semantic games. They like things like semantic overload, where you try to give a phrase a ton of different meanings or ways to interpret it so they can attack what you say. They can basically angle it in so many different ways to attack you. They like vague definitions, so if you try to pin them down in an argument, they can pivot all the time. So that's the left. And I said the right's favorite tactic is the dumb card. They like to pretend they don't understand a concept when they damn well clearly do understand a concept, to waste your time and hope you don't pick that up so they can just sort of dodge what you're talking about. And at least going into something, you can at least shut down the left semantic games by forcing them to be thorough in their definitions ahead of time. But the dumb cards are way more frustrating because essentially you have to drag it out from them over time of talking to them. And it's really annoying because basically they're just wasting your time for like 20 minutes trying to pretend they don't understand a concept they clearly understand, just so they don't have to answer a fucking question. And I can't stand that. And this is what brings me to the people cheering on Dave Rubin. Now, Dave Rubin is a fraud who only cares about his pocketbook and looking good. He is essentially very similar to a shitlib. And how do I say this? All the people on the right cheer him when he goes to these protests and other events, saying, oh, look at him, he's fighting the good fight. I'm going to tell you from personal experience. Dave Rubin shows up to these protests because I've been there and seen him do this on 3 separate occasions. He shows up and takes like 2 pictures and leaves. He'll show up, maybe take a 5-second video or interview one person and then leave. And then go post it on his YouTube channel like, I'm there fighting the good fight with you. No, he's not. Again, I'm not bullshitting. I'm speaking from experience. I have seen him do this. So he's going after this black academic because he was on Joy Reid's show. Now, let me be clear. I think Joy Reid is one of the most evil people on television. She is a complete piece of shit. I think she's worse than Brian Stelter, in my opinion. But, whoever you think is worse, it don't matter. But like I said, even people I really don't like can say something where I'm like, yeah, okay. All right? I despise Candace Owens, but even once in a while, she'll say something like, it's like, okay, sure, why not? So, this academic, who I've watched a bit of, I do not like him. I think he's really mean-spirited and nasty. But he says something that is actually true for once. And then here comes Dave Rubin and other people on the right who pretend they don't understand the concept he's talking about, but I know they do for a fact, because when it comes to white people, they will point this out and understand this concept perfectly fine. But when it comes to black people, they try to go like, how could that be? I don't understand. What? I'm going to show you what this is. And this is why I said the right needs to stop playing the dumb card. If you understand it, understand the concept and argue the concept. And actually listen to what he's saying and answer the questions or rebut it. Because as you'll see in this video, he puts words in his mouth he didn't say and keeps trying to reframe what he said. So let me show you this real quick and we'll see.
One of the things I've been talking about for quite some time is that the only place that there's real racism left in America is on the left, right? Like, of course, there are individuals.
I love how the right loves this talking point. Really, because it seems that you can shit talk black people all you want on the right and nothing happens to you. But if you have any criticisms for Israel, right, or you make fun of the white ignorance, ooh, the right comes after you hard, right? They sit here and they smeared Ahmaud Arbery all day and the right cheered. But if you say Kyle Rittenhouse is a woman beater, which is a fact, they go apeshit and say, oh, what does that past have to do anything with what's going on now? And I'm like, I don't know. What does George Floyd's past have to do with what happened in that particular instance? And you guys were fine with that. The right got mad when you mock Ashley Babbitt, but they'll mock George Floyd all day or day. You can bring up every stat that is negative towards black people off the top of your head on the right. It's always the negative ones they can name off the top of their head, right? But again, you point out the white ignorance, oh, they get mad. You criticize Israel, you get canceled. Hotep Jesus and young Pharaoh? Young Pharaoh especially, he did not say anything anti-Semitic. And they canceled him with the quickness. Was the right to come out after Lieutenant Dan Patrick, after he blamed the COVID spike in Texas, he deflected it to all black people are the problem. Yeah, I think the right has a problem with race, and they just try to deny it and try to hide it because, again, they play the dumb card. Another example, I was amazed that Anna Kasparian and Young Turks, which is one of the most trash things on the internet, was able to go, yo, I got some stuff about Kyle Rittenhouse wrong. Where was the right when they smeared Ahmaud Arbery and got so much wrong with the case and then further evidence come out? Nobody on the right apologized. But if Kyle Rittenhouse sneezed in a video where one frame you didn't see it, they're all over that. So no, miss me with this, all the racism's on the left. No, it's both sides. Both sides.
Individual racist people. There are bad people. It's just how it is. There are mean people. There are people who do not like black people. There are people who don't like Jews. There are people who don't like white people. There are people who don't like gays. There are people who don't like straights. But the only place in America that any of this is okay, and not only okay, but actually manufactured and then pushed out via giant corporations, is on the left. So MSNBC peddles in...
Weird, because giant corporations have been making racist stereotypes about black people for years. But, okay, yes, it's only them. I'm talking about back in the day when the right was more the party of the private corporations. So again, I'm sick of this, the left is the real racist talking point, okay? The left and the right do not care about black people. The left use them as a tool, and the right just says, I don't care, nigga. It amazes me how the right points out that Trump's black support doubled in his 4 years, but they can't figure out why. And it amazes me. Or again, like I said, the normalization of racism on the right, I'm like, Candace Owens is one of the biggest racists on the right. She's like really openly racist towards black people all the fucking time. And I don't get how the right... Remember what I said? Remember what I said with the Cardi B thing, if you saw that video? Where she was saying how she goes on Twitter, thinks that minstrel show from Cardi B was black culture, right? She calls that black culture. Goes on Tucker Carlson later and talks about how that whole performance was an attack on America and American values. What does that tell me about her statement? That sounds like she's saying black culture is an attack on American values or against American values. It's actively our fault. And the right is perfectly complacent and agree with that. She'll point out the black ignorant who are rioting in Santa Monica and have no problem painting us like this is what we think or how we think. But if I point out that I'm going, yo, the Capitol rioters is an example of white rage and this is how white people are in America. Can't say that on the right, they'll get mad. Even though I'm literally doing the same thing they're doing. I don't mean it when I'm saying, I'm just pointing out the hypocrisy anyway.
This social justice nonsense all the time. They constantly attack white people, constantly attack Christians, constantly attack straight people. It's what the network is doing. Now, you may wonder, why would NBC, a giant corporation, be just pushing racism all day long? But that is the path that I suppose MSNBC has decided is right in terms of making money, because at the end of the day, these guys just want to make money. So Michael Eric Dyson, who is a professor who has been on Bill Maher's show probably 24 times, he was on Joy Reid's show. Now, you know Joy Reid. This woman is not well. If you pretend you're watching her show from a mental institution, it makes a hell of a lot more sense. He was on Joy Reid's show, and he was attacking Winsome Sears. Now,
I will. This is my only criticism for that. Joy Reid is not crazy. Joy Reid is evil. He is a very evil individual.
Who is Winsome Sears? Well, of course, as you guys know, last week, Glenn Youngkin won the Virginia governor's race over Terry McAuliffe. Terry McAuliffe was the Democrat who said that parents shouldn't have anything to do with their kids' education. Critical race theory isn't in schools. You're all a bunch of racists, blah, blah, blah. Just a bad dude. So finally, we got that hope, right? I'm always talking about the hope in the distance, and we got some hope by Youngkin winning. Absolutely. Well, Winsome Sears is the lieutenant governor-elect.
Before we go into this next part, I would like to clarify, I do not know much about this woman, and I haven't listened to her talk about most of this stuff. However, we're going to listen to this guy. I don't know whether he's right or wrong about her because I haven't watched her speak much, but the concept he's talking about is correct. So I just want you to keep that in mind. I'm not accusing this lady in particular of anything. I'm just talking about the concept he's presenting.
Now, she happens to be a black woman. Now, you would think that Michael Eric Dyson and Joy Reid and the people over at MSNBC who are always talking about systemic racism might be happy when a black woman becomes so successful, but they're not into it. Here's Michael Eric Dyson.
Problem is here they want white supremacy by ventriloquist effect. There is a black mouth moving, but a white idea through the running on the runway of the tongue of a figure who justifies and legitimates the white supremacist practices.
Now, again, for this lady, I do not know if that is true. What he is talking about, this concept, is 100% true. There were black people that promoted slavery. There were black slave catchers, right? Again, all Candace Owens does is shit on black people all day, every day, that we're brainwashed idiots and we're trained to go fucking wildin' everywhere, and the black ignorants are basically all of us. Again, a point I like to make go, do you think Uncle Ruckus was born in a vacuum, or do you think his concept of his character was based on a few things? I hate how the left or the right plays this game where they go, look at all these white progressives that hate white people. Look how out they are to get to white people. But then if you point out a black face that hates black people, they go, how can they be racist against black people? They're black. I'm like, that's what I mean by the dumb card. They understand the concept. They just pretend not to when it suits them.
We know that we can internalize in our own minds, in our own subconscious, in our own bodies, the very principles that are undoing us.
100% true. You don't believe me? Watch Tatum. Tatum is exactly that to a T. Tatum has even gone over his story, and you can see where he started to view things through a white superiority complex. He's the one saying it's like we're demon possessed, his actual words. So don't tell me this, don't tell me the concept of black people spouting like, you know, racist ideas against black people that usually come from white ignorance is not a fucking thing. That concept has always been a thing. Again, there were black people in slave times who advocated for slavery because Massa told them to. Massa rewarded them for that. All right? So people on the right, stop this self-hatred is magically not a thing when it's black people.
So to have a black face speaking in behalf of a white supremacist legacy is nothing new. And it is
now, again, saying this in a white supremacist legacy for this lady, I don't know for the lady that got elected. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting your name. I'm bad with names. Again, I don't know what she said. I'm just pointing out that they're attacking his concept. And his concept in this case is 100% correct. The right doesn't even know. They try to pretend they don't know what the word tap dancer is. They'll agree with me when I say Abram X. Kennedy is a left-wing tap dancer, as I've always held that position because he just spouts talking points that white liberals give him. But when I do the same for Candace Owens, now all of a sudden it's how can she not like black people? She's black. How can she be a token? It's like, okay, yes, on your side it magically goes away.
It is to the chagrin of those of us who study race that the white folk on the other side and the right wingers on the other side don't understand this is politics 101 and this is race, not even 101. What's beneath 101?
Well, no, some smarter people in the right understand this, right? So when they had the proposal to look into the historical effects of reparations, obviously, the left brings out a black guy to argue for it. And we should look into the historical effects of reparations. The right doesn't want it. But the right is smart enough to know we should not bring out a white guy to argue against it. So go get that tap dancer Burgess Owens down here to do it for us. They understand that concept. They understand that well enough. Notice when Tim Scott comes out, you notice he's not really prominent in terms of, you know, the black senators very often. He only shows up on certain issues. And I don't think Tim Scott is a willing token. I honestly don't think he's an okay dude. I think he's fine. But I do notice that the right brings him out at specific times. So they do understand this concept.
one. It's the pre-K of race. You should understand the fact that if you tell black people, look, I support a Negro. Look, there is a person of color that I am in favor of, and that person of color happens to undermine and undercut and subvert the very principles about which we are concerned, you do yourself no service by pointing to them as an example of your racial progressivism.
100%. This was 100% what Larry Elder was doing. This was my problem with Larry. I brought up that Gavin Newsom would have been recalled if the right didn't run Elder. They had to run Elder. I'm like, if you run a guy who goes on Candace Owens' show saying goofy shit, like, it's good that slave owners got reparations because we just want to avoid the fighting. They lost the war. I don't give a fuck if they want to fight. Yeet them from the planet. That was not their land anymore. But still opposes reparations for black people today, and you run a guy who says that in Cali? What the fuck do you think is going to happen? Do you think that is a pro-black talking point, or a basically pro-establishment Republican majority white talking point? I've always brought this up of the institutional racism of corporate media, left and right. Absolutely. If you are a right-wing candidate or right-wing personality that is adamantly pro-black, and that does not mean at the expense of Get Whitey. I hate that thing. I've always said, I hate the Get Whitey narrative. Every pro-black conservative I've talked to does not like the Get Whitey narrative. They all say it's stupid and it's all bad. However, the majority of conservatives are let's take Fox News, for example. All right, let's take Fox News. Their base is white conservatives, mostly white conservative men. Okay, so they want to appeal to their base to make money. So they are going to make sure to bring on mostly white, Republican voices to come on and speak. They do want black people too. However, when they want black people, they want to make sure they bring on black people who say what white conservatives want to hear. They don't want to bring on the black conservative who has a more pro-black message, right? They don't want that because that upsets the white conservatives. They don't want to hear it, right? You see how white conservatives get triggered if you bring up reparations. So Fox News will never bring on a black conservative that is pro-reparations and let him make his case. They won't do that. They are going to bring on their Candace Owens, who will say everything black ignorance, the black ignorance are basically all of us. Right? Because guess what? That doesn't upset the mostly white conservative base. And that's what people mean when they say institutional racism. They will bring on black faces who will say fucked up stuff about us all day and night, just dressed up nicely, but you will never get a like I said, I don't even know how Maj got on Fox News, to be honest. I have no clue how he managed that. But again, it was about certain topics. Like I said, you'll never catch them on Fox News, OAN, stuff like that. Newsmax, they won't be there. Which then causes damage in black areas because a lot of times the reason conservative is a dirty word in black communities because the institutional racism of the media points black conservatives, makes them appear as they're all tap dancers and they hate their own, which is 100% not true, but they are selectively picked, just like the left selectively picks certain black people who will spew out white liberal talking points that are also not good for us. Am I explaining the concept well enough? I hope so.
God, there's an awful lot there. First off, I just want to reiterate, you will not find anything nearly that racist on Fox News today.
Again, how was that racist? Pointing out, so I guess pointing out black people who advocated for slavery back then and saying they hate their own, or they're pointing out white, like I said, like the white Southerners' message through a black mouth. Apparently, by that logic, that is a horribly racist thing to say. Sure, okay.
Or on Newsmax tomorrow, or any of those right-wing media outlets that these people are always freaking out about. That was
course they will. They bring on Candace Owens to talk shit about black people all day and night on Fox News.
Abject, pure racism, not reverse racism.
Nothing racist about what he said.
Not special racism. It was just old-fashioned racism.
Remember now, white progressives can hate white people, and the right will point this out all day and night. But if a black person says there are black people that hate their own, now all of a sudden that's horrific racism, right? Okay. That's the dumb card I'm talking about. They know the concept of self-hatred.
He thinks that this black woman, Winsome Sears, who has a pretty fantastic resume, and if you watch some of her talk on election night, like, this woman's pretty spectacular. Okay, and I don't care about the color of her skin. These people racialize everything, and then we have to, unfortunately, respond to it.
No. The problem is the left over-racialized everything, and the right never wants to talk about race, so they try to sweep it under the rug. That's the problem. This is why the right's unpalatable to black people, right? The left will pretend to care, but most of them are shit libs who will turn their back on them in 5 seconds. The right will straight up say, I don't care, nigga, get out of here.
His line there, a black mouth moving, but white idea running on the runway.
Again, like I said, black supporters of slavery. That would be a white southerner idea running through a black mouth. Weaponize black people against black people. This has been going on since the beginning of America. Try to get us to turn on ourselves. All the time. All the fucking time.
Like, how disgusting is that? Ideas don't have color. You're allowed to be whatever.
No, but certain ideas are more prolific with certain groups. There are certain ideas that are prominent with one demographic in America. There are certain things white conservatives only believe and black conservatives don't believe. There are certain things white liberals mostly believe, and then some of them don't. American chattel slavery. Would you say that was mostly a pro idea, like pro-slavery with mostly southern whites? I'm just pointing this. This is, like I said, he didn't say that. He didn't say ideas are colorized. He didn't say that.
Whatever color you are and have different ideas, but he thinks that the color of his skin is the totality of his ideas.
Literally did not say that.
And that is so dangerous. It is actually racism. It is the very definition of prejudice, which...
See how he just took what he said and completely distorted it into something else? That he said ideas have color and all this. Dude, we all know what he said. Every black person would agree with the idea of tap dancing, left or right. We all know what that is. But, we're going to play the dumb card and say, oh, what a horrible racist. Okay. Tell me more about how white progressives hate white people. All right?
Is to prejudge. So if you just saw a black person walking down the street and you judge them as if I must know all of the things you think.
He didn't say that. There is tons of ideological diversity in black communities. He's pointing out there are certain messages that are harmful for us that have come primarily from a specific demographic in America. That is what he is saying. Okay, and it goes left and right.
Because you're black, that would be prejudice, right? So the more that black people succeed, the more that these race hucksters, and that's what they are, the more they will get angry. But
I don't see where you're getting that from. He's just pointing out a true statement. But sure, let's misrepresent what he said again.
This guy, Michael Eric Dyson, has been doing this for years and years and years. And as I said, he's on Bill Maher's show all the time. He was actually on this Friday, and I'll get to that in just a second. But Michael reminded me that he actually did a debate with Jordan Peterson.
Now, this video is getting long, so I'll skip the debate. But I will tell you, Eric Dice was a piece of shit in that debate. And he tried to smear Jordan Peterson by calling him just an angry white guy. He's not, and pretending he knew what he was from. In that case, he is trying to bunch ideology with race. In that case, in the case that he showed as an example, that is not what he said. All right? So yeah, to shorten the video, you can go look it up yourself. Yeah, Eric Dice is a piece of shit. I agree with that part. That doesn't mean what he said before was not correct. All right? He unfairly attacked Jordan Peterson in a completely different instance. Okay. I like Jordan Peterson, and I was able to look at that. I know a lot about him, and I was able to look at that assessment and go, nigga, you just don't know what to say, so you're trying to pull the angry white man trope. Come on, man. Apply that trope when it's actually true and relevant. But he's just throwing it out because he doesn't know what to say. Anyway, I don't want this to get too long. I'm like overdoing it now, but I just wanted to talk about the concept and how I just hate that the right pretends to not understand the concept of self-hatred while simultaneously perfectly understanding it when it comes to white progressives. Showing that, again, that is the dumb card they like to play. We don't tolerate the dumb card on this channel because all it does is waste time, just like I do not tolerate the left's vague definitions so they can pivot in every which way they want to whenever they feel like it. We gonna keep it honest on this channel. None of this nonsense. We ain't doing this. Alright? So if anyone on the right watched this and didn't understand the concept, I hope you understand the concept now. I'm not angry at you. Some people legitimately don't understand this concept or it doesn't connect with them because they've been fed this nonsense from many right-wing sources over the years. I want the right to be better. This is why I'm pointing this out. If I wanted them to fall into being some like insanely racist left, I should just not say anything. I would just like, no, keep doing what you're doing, right? But no, I think you're better than that. And I think you need to... I think you can do it. Because like I said, I think the right is ignorant, but the left is a cult. And ignorance can be corrected.